Every so often, Hollywood witnesses a moment that makes even the most seasoned insiders pause, rewind, and ask the same question. Did that really just happen? And somehow, more often than not, that moment has Tom Cruise at the center of it. Because while most stars rely on editing, stunt doubles, and careful camera work to create movie magic, Tom Cruise has built an entire legacy on doing the unthinkable himself. Not just once, not just occasionally, but again and again and again, and just when it feels like he's already pushed every possible limit, he goes even further. This time, it might be the most unbelievable thing yet. To understand why this latest moment has everyone talking, you have to understand the mindset behind it. Tom Cruise isn't just an actor showing up to perform lines. He approaches filmmaking like a mission. Every scene is an opportunity to create something real, something visceral, something that an audience can feel in their chest. That philosophy has led to some of the most iconic moments in modern cinema, hanging from an aircraft mid-flight, scaling the side of a towering skyscraper with nothing but sheer determination, piloting high-speed vehicles in ways that blur the line between cinema and reality. But what sets him apart isn't just the spectacle, it's the commitment. According to people who have worked closely with him, there's an intensity to his preparation that borders on relentless, training sessions that go far beyond what's required, rehearsals that stretch into the kind of detail most productions would never attempt, and an insistence on authenticity that can turn even a simple scene into something extraordinary. And that brings us to this latest moment. When early reports began circulating about what Tom Cruise was attempting, the reaction was mixed. Some were intrigued, some were skeptical, and some simply didn't believe it could be done safely, or even at all. But as more information came out, it became clear that this wasn't just another stunt. This was something entirely different. Behind the scenes, preparation reportedly began long before cameras were even ready to roll. Specialists were brought in, safety teams were expanded, training protocols were designed with an almost scientific level of precision. Every detail, from environmental conditions to timing, was studied and rehearsed, because what Tom Cruise was planning to do required more than courage. It required absolute control, and yet even with all that preparation, there was still an undeniable sense of risk. Not reckless risk, but real risk, the kind that can't be fully eliminated, only managed. That's part of what makes moments like these so compelling. They remind audiences that what they're watching isn't entirely fabricated. There's a human being at the center of it, pushing boundaries in real time. And when the day finally came, the atmosphere on set reportedly shifted. Crew members who had seen it all suddenly found themselves holding their breath. Conversations became quieter. Movements became more deliberate. Because everyone understood they were about to witness something rare. Then it happened. Tom Cruise stepped into position, calm, focused, completely locked in, and without hesitation, he did it. What exactly unfolded in that moment is something viewers will eventually see for themselves, but those present described it as surreal, a blend of precision and intensity that felt almost unreal, even though it was happening right in front of them. There was no pause for celebration immediately afterward, no dramatic reaction, just a quiet recognition among the crew that they had just captured something special. Only later did the full weight of it begin to sink in. Because what Tom Cruise accomplished wasn't just another stunt, it was a statement. A statement about what's possible when preparation meets determination. A statement about the power of practical filmmaking in an era increasingly dominated by digital effects. And perhaps most importantly, a statement about longevity. At a stage in his career where many would begin to slow down, Tom Cruise seems to be accelerating, not just maintaining his level, but raising it. And that raises an interesting question. Why? Why continue to push boundaries at this level, especially when there's nothing left to prove? Some industry observers suggest it comes down to passion, a genuine love for the craft that hasn't faded over time. Others believe it's about legacy, about leaving behind a body of work that stands apart in a meaningful way. There's also the possibility that it's something simpler, a personal drive, the kind that doesn't rely on external validation, but instead comes from within. Whatever the reason, the result is undeniable. Moments like this don't just entertain. They inspire. They remind audiences of what dedication looks like at its highest level. And just when you think you've seen the peak, something shifts. Because here's where things get even more interesting. Midway through production, there were indications that this stunt might not even be the most ambitious part of the project. Some reports hinted at additional sequences that could push the limits even further. That revelation changed the conversation entirely. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a single moment. It was about an entire philosophy of filmmaking, a commitment to doing things differently, even when it would be easier not to. And that's where Tom Cruise continues to stand apart. In an industry that often prioritizes efficiency, he leans into effort. Where shortcuts exist, he chooses the longer path. Not because he has to, but because he believes it makes a difference. And for audiences, it does. You can feel it when you watch one of his films. There's a texture, a sense of presence that's difficult to replicate. It pulls you in, makes you lean forward, makes you forget you're watching something constructed. That's the magic. But it's also the result of countless hours of work that most people never see. The training sessions, the failed attempts, the adjustments, the moments of doubt that inevitably come with trying something new. Those are the parts that don't make it into trailers or headlines, but they're essential to the final result. And in many ways, that's what makes this latest achievement so remarkable. It's not just about what happened in front of the camera, it's about everything that led up to it. The discipline, the focus, the willingness to keep going even when things get difficult. Because let's be honest, there's an easier way to make movies. Plenty of productions rely heavily on visual effects to create breathtaking moments, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But what Tom Cruise offers is something different. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful moments come from reality. From seeing a person actually do something extraordinary rather than watching a simulation of it. And that difference resonates. It's why clips of his stunts spread so quickly online, why behind-the-scenes footage generates so much interest. People aren't just watching the result. They're fascinated by the process. They want to understand how it was done. And in this case, the answer is both simple and complex. It was done through preparation, through teamwork, through a level of commitment that goes beyond the ordinary. But it was also done through something less tangible, belief. A belief that it could be done. That it was worth doing, that audiences would feel the difference. And based on the reaction so far, that belief seems to have paid off. Still, there's another layer to this story that's worth considering. Because while Tom Cruise is often the face of these moments, he's not alone in creating them. Behind every stunt, there's a team. Coordinators, engineers, safety experts, camera operators, and countless others working together to make the impossible possible. Their contributions are essential, even if they don't always receive the same level of attention. And by all accounts, Tom Cruise is deeply aware of that. Many who have worked with him describe a collaborative environment where ideas are shared and contributions are valued. That dynamic plays a crucial role in achieving something this complex, because no matter how driven an individual may be, moments like this require collective effort, and when everything comes together, the result is something unforgettable. As anticipation builds for audiences to finally see this moment on screen, one thing is already clear. Tom Cruise has done it again. He's reminded the world why he remains one of the most compelling figures in entertainment, not just because of his talent, but because of his willingness to keep evolving, to keep pushing, to keep surprising. And perhaps that's the most impressive part of all, because in a world where expectations can become predictable, he continues to defy them. So when people say Tom Cruise did something insane again, it's not just a headline, it's a pattern of redefining what's possible, one moment at a time. And as we look ahead, there's an undeniable sense of curiosity. What could he possibly do next? That question lingers, creating a quiet kind of excitement. Because if history has shown anything, it's that Tom Cruise isn't finished yet, not even close. And that brings us to a final thought. Moments like this aren't just about spectacle, they're about inspiration, about reminding us that limits are often more flexible than they appear, that with enough dedication, preparation, and belief, extraordinary things can happen, not just in movies, but in life. So the next time you watch one of these scenes unfold, take a moment to appreciate what you're really seeing, not just action, but effort, not just risk, but resolve. not just a performance, but a pursuit of something greater. And if that resonates with you, if it makes you feel even a little more inspired, then maybe that's the real impact of what Tom Cruise continues to do. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Hollywood's most unbelievable moments, let me know what you think. Do you believe practical stunts make movies more exciting, or do you prefer the possibilities of modern effects? Don't forget to like the video if you found it interesting, subscribe for more stories like this, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective, because something tells me this conversation is far from over.